Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Washington Times Media Spotlight. I'm Steve Malzberg. You know, last week we took a look at the media coverage of the assassination attempt on Donald Trump. This week we have two major events to look at: the Republican National Convention and, of course, the stunning announcement this past Sunday from Joe Biden that apparently he's been forced out of another presidential race. We'll get to that. I want to start with the reaction to that announcement and go to CNN and Van Jones, who got emotional and made this analogy.
Like when your grandpa, you got to take the keys, and everybody, you got to take his keys, you got to take his keys, you got to, and he's fighting, and everybody's so frustrated, and then you finally get the keys back, and then you just cry. Because this is somebody that you love. This is somebody that you care about. This is somebody who was there for you. This is somebody you wouldn't be here without him.
Okay, I don't really get it. Could someone explain to me who wouldn't be here without Joe Biden? I mean, I understand the grandfather, that family wouldn't be there possibly, but we'd all be here except for Biden's family without Joe Biden. And do you think the emotion was real? I'll leave that for you to decide. Now, over on Fox, Bret Baier, he analyzed it this way.
This is a tectonic shift in politics. Think about where we have been, and in such a fast time to have changed now this nominee stepping down.
Then Baier brought up the elephant in the room.
The next thing that I think you're going to hear is that if he's stepping down as the nominee, how can he continue to be president for the next 6 months?
So that was Baier acknowledging the Republican concerns over Biden's ability to finish out this term. And surprisingly to me at the time, over on ABC, Jonathan Karl did the same.
And you are seeing the demands already from Republicans that he resign as president. This is the argument. How can you continue as commander-in-chief if you can't continue as a candidate?
And other people were talking about this too, Aaron Burnett on CNN and others. Now, remember after the debate, there were some Republicans who talked about invoking the 25th Amendment on Biden, but the media wouldn't go there. So why are they willing to bring it up and pursue it to some extent now? Well, maybe there are plenty in the mainstream media who would like to see Kamala Harris beat Donald Trump, and they figure she would do better as an incumbent as she runs against the former president. Keep that in mind. Now, earlier I mentioned Joe Biden stepping down again, being forced out again. Now, you should know what I'm talking about. If we had a fair media, you would know that happened in 1987 for the 1988 race, okay? But it's the Biden protection plan. The media doesn't bring it up. They didn't bring it up in 2020. They haven't brought it up in this election cycle, and they're not talking about it in the aftermath of Sunday. Now, let me go back in history a little bit. Of course, 2008, Biden ran, and he became the vice president to Barack Obama because he didn't win the nomination. But in the 88 race, that was a different story. Biden was caught plagiarizing speeches and telling lies. You see, back then, the media was more than happy to inform the public about what was going on when he plagiarized from JFK, RFK, Hubert Humphrey, and others, and when he lied about his academic record.
Newsweek says Biden actually went to school on a half scholarship, ended up near the bottom of his class, and won only 1 degree, not 3.
Joe Biden ranked 76th in a class of 85 at the University of Syracuse Law School.
And they were honest and unafraid in their analysis of Biden.
Bye-bye Biden. He may not know it yet, but I think this is going to be very difficult for him to recover.
Is Joe Biden dead meat, yes or no?
I think so.
Bob?
It's in terminal condition.
No, Biden wasn't the sitting president when he was forced out in 87. He wasn't the presumptive nominee either. But that was a big story that should always have been a big story in 2020, as I said, now, and especially after he apparently has been forced out again. Folks, this is fake news by omission. It's the worst kind of media bias. Now let's go and focus on the coverage of the Republican National Convention. I want to go to the Tuesday night, the second night, last Tuesday, and Michael Steele, MSNBC. He, of course, is the former head of the RNC, if you could believe it. And he brought up that he felt we needed more proof Did Donald Trump's ear really take a bullet, or was it glass that shattered from the teleprompter? We need to know. Watch.
Was it caused by a bullet, as opposed to, as some reports from those on the scene, other reporters, saying that it was actually shards of glass from the teleprompter itself, not the bullet? So there are a lot of questions around that ear.
MSNBC host Ari Melber then compared the need to know about Trump's ear to the need to know if President Biden has his cognitive ability intact to continue on or to run for next year.
The calls around the current president's medical condition, the questions around his capacity, right, are also the same questions you have in a medical event like this. Certainly the public would want to know as much as possible about both incidents.
Really? How is that even comparable? Of course, it was a bullet that damaged Donald Trump's ear. No doubt about that. But even if it was glass, there was a shooting, attempted assassination. How does that compare? How does that compare to wanting information about Biden's cognitive ability? And you want more? Joy Reid on MSNBC compared Trump being shot to Biden getting COVID.
His survival of that and bouncing right back and going right to his convention is being conveyed in the media world as a sign of strength. This current president of the United States is 81 years old and has COVID. Should he be fine in a couple of days? Doesn't that convey exactly the same thing?
No, it's not the same thing at all. It's just another attempt by the media to downplay what happened to Donald Trump and build up Joe Biden. Remember, at the time, Biden was still in the running. And as for this nonsense that Trump's wound may be from a shattered teleprompter hitting his ear and not a sniper's bullet, Snopes very clearly stated that that's not true. They show pictures of undamaged teleprompters and pictures of the bullet and conclude claims that Trump's injuries stemmed from broken glass are false. Now, you ready for this? Also, MSNBC, Alex Wagner. After J.D. Vance spoke to the convention on Wednesday night, she came on and she didn't like the fact that J.D. Vance was talking about a family plot where generations of his family had been buried. It's in eastern Kentucky, and that he had plans for himself, his wife, and his kids eventually to be buried there also.
In America, it doesn't always have to be the white male lineage that that defines the family history, that branch of the tree supersedes all else.
So she's saying that Vance was not considerate of his wife's Indian roots and the fact that her family came from San Diego, which led to this really bizarre conclusion.
I just think the construction of this notion reveals a lot about someone who fundamentally believes in the supremacy of whiteness and masculinity.
The supremacy of whiteness and masculinity? To my ears, she called him a white supremacist. A white supremacist for wanting to follow family tradition. Just outrageous. But she wasn't the only one to play the race card.
And here's my favorite, the Wu Klux Klan.
The Wu Klux Klan. Well, you know what he means. That's bringing up the Ku Klux Klan. That's Anthony Anderson filling in for Jimmy Kimmel on ABC, speaking on the night after we got a concert at the convention from a rapper named the Mayor of Magaville. So then Anderson went through a whole bunch of fake names for other rap groups that will perform, and he settled on the end, the Wu Klux Klan. And one day prior, he said this.
The Republican National Convention, also known as the White People's Choice Awards.
And he had this to say after Senator Tim Scott spoke and said that America is not a racist nation.
Attention, large crowd of white people. America is not a racist country. Thanks, Uncle Tim or Tom, whichever you go by.
That is racism, pure and simple. So where's the outrage? There was none, and there'll be none, because media bias reigns supreme. Now, watch this.
Will there be a second family separation policy?
It's MSDNC, so I expect nothing less from you clowns. Even today, even 48 hours later, you couldn't wait. You couldn't wait with your lies and with your nonsense. So just get out of here.
Donald Jr. giving it to MSNBC's reporter Jacob Soboroff. Soboroff had said that his dad, Donald Trump, was a divisive figure and asked if there would be more family separation in a second Trump term. So good for Donald Trump Jr. reacting the way he did. And he wasn't the only one to take on the media.
Florida Congressman Mike Waltz mocked Biden for allegedly being focused on building electric tanks. That is pure fiction.
That's CNN's fact checker, Daniel Dale. And he was fact checking Florida Republican Congressman Mike Waltz after Waltz spoke and accused Joe Biden of wanting to implement electric vehicle tanks in the military. And he called that false. You heard him. But Waltz wasn't having any of it the next day. He said he had budgets and he had testimony from the head of the Army.
I'm sure that he would be more than happy to sit down.
Well, he should do that before he publicly puts it. I mean, it's forever on the internet. He said it on air. And when we talk about misleading, he's misleading the public. And so if he's misleading on, I have all the facts. If he's misleading on that, what else is he misleading on?
That's certainly a fair question. And I'm not sure, though, that fairness is a word that dominates the media landscape now, or I don't think it'll dominate in the future either. Well, folks, that's what we do here. We keep an eye on the media for you. I want to thank you for watching this episode of the Washington Times Media Spotlight. I'm Steve Malzberg. Share the link, and until next time, stay safe.